Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Teresa Castro. I am a proud alumna and staff member in UNC's Office of Alumni Relations. Thank you all for joining us today for the Alumni Career Panel, Alumni of Color in Business and Finance. Today, we will learn from and connect with fellow UNC Bears working in this industry. Before I introduce you to our panelists, I would like to share a few housekeeping items. First, this event will be recorded and will be available on demand a week after the event on the alumni website. I will post the link in the chat. Second, I invite you all to start building your network and reach out to the panelists after the event. I will post their contact information in the chat toward the end of this virtual event. And third, I will go off screen after introductions and will return toward the end of the event to provide a closing statement. As we highlight the careers of these alumni, I invite fellow students, fellow staff, and faculty to ask questions through the Q&A feature. Now, please help me in welcoming our panelists. Panelists, please introduce yourself by stating your name, pronouns, title, the organization you work for, your UNC degree, and a little bit about yourself. Mossab, we'll start with you.
All right, my name is Mossab Amani, he, him. I graduated from Montfort College of Business in 2014, majoring in Business Administration, Computer Information Systems. And I recently received my Master of Business Administration from Ali Amama University in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia in 2021. I'm from Saudi Arabia, so I'm an international student, but I lived in Greeley, Colorado for 6 good years.
Awesome. Thank you, Mossab. Brenda, how about we go to you next?
Hi, everybody. My name is Brenda Chaides Moreno. I graduated from UNC in 2019 with a business administration degree with an emphasis in marketing, and I currently work at First Bank, born and raised in Denver, and been here all my life.
Thank you, Brenda. Miguel, would you like to go next?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Tere. So my name is Miguel Hernandez, graduated in 2022 from the University of Northern Colorado, just about a year and a half ago, honestly, not too long ago. I currently work as an economist with the U.S. Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, to be more specific. Graduated with a degree in economics and emphasis in business and a minor in business administration. I'm still considering getting a master's, despite the fact that that this is a good job. So still to stay competitive, I think that would be a good move.
Thank you, Miguel. Nubia, why don't you close us out?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nubia Martinez Caro. I work for the Wells Fargo Wealth and Investment Management Group as a trust advisor manager. I graduated in 2004, which is maybe before some of you were born. So welcome. And I do have a master's degree from the University of Colorado at Denver. When I was at UNC, I majored in marketing with a minor in Spanish.
Awesome, thank you. And now I will hand it over to Maurice, who will be our facilitator this afternoon. Maurice.
Hello, I'm Maurice Harris. I'm an assistant professor of management at MCB. I've been at UNC for 2 years, just starting my second year, and I teach business ethics and also do research in the area of business ethics. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. And so to get us started, I'm going to ask the panelists just a really quick open-ended question, and that is, how did your UNC experience help launch you into your career, and how did you arrive at your current role? And to get us started, Mossab, can you get us started with that?
Sure. During my time in UNC, I actually did not do an internship because I was holding a student visa. But to start off, the academic curriculum at UNC provided me with a strong foundation in business in general. If we take the technical courses, for example, accounting, finance, statistics, these classes have helped me build my confidence level and equip me with the necessary knowledge and skills needed for the career in the financial industry. While in fact, the courses that required logical thought process like strategic management, marketing is what helped me the most, especially when I was in a decision-making position. Additionally, the professors and mentors at the UNC were instrumental in guiding and shaping my career trajectory. With that being said, I've also participated in extracurriculum activities and co-founded the CIS Technology Club in 2013 with my colleague Fernando Lopez. I believe these activities help build the confidence level and give exposure to different aspects outside of class. So be a part of a club where you involve outside of campus or serve as a president of a chapter. I believe being involved in these activities is very helpful. Also, what I feel really shaped me is the teamwork and in the team projects that were part of the classes, along with the presentation that we had to do. It was a good foundation to enable you to work with different teams, to work with different environments. Especially for me, speaking English as a second language, it broke that barrier for public speaking. And I believe all of these factors helped shaping who I am today and enabled me to arrive to my current role.
Thank you, Mosab. Next, Brenda, are you able to kind of speak to that question?
Yeah, thank you. So I think the primary factor was really just helping me get out of my comfort zone, right? Where college is kind of the time where you're kind of figuring out what you want to do, who you are, kind of defining what you like, what you don't like. But it really helped in the sense of networking, right? Is building those connections. Just how Mossad said was that getting involved outside of just going to class. I helped charter a sorority on campus, which is still there today, which really opened up a lot of connections, not only just at UNC, but across other universities in the state. I also studied abroad. I did internships. All these were really pivotal in the foundation of just really making me open up as a person, get those networking connections, and actually help me open up to even just apply for the job that I'm at now, is which I found through the job fair. So again, going outside of class, really taking advantage of those resources that the university has to offer.
Sure. Thank you, Brenda. How about you, Miguel?
Yes, absolutely, Maurice. So I think that the most important thing that you can gain there at UNC is going to be the knowledge behind, how things work. So it's just an understanding of, the different departments, whether it be accounting, whether it be human resources, but just that background knowledge is super important once you get out into the work field. Something that I did find that has helped me prepare me for my current role is the requirements and the rigor of the curriculum, as far as being the ability to work independently, ability to communicate effectively through different types of means, including like today, virtual meetings, and then deadlines. The ability to meet deadlines is something that I have to do on a regular and consistent basis. And so all of that stuff is truly what you experience out here once you get or once you finish school. So another thing that I thought about too is the exposure to technology and different software. When you're going through that accounting class, there's a Cengage book, and you have to, download it, and there's a whole different curriculum. Every single class has its own little, software package, and so all that experience that you gain for it is super important. Now this might be specifically to where I'm at, but here at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, specifically, I'm in the Chicago region. So we have a lot of senior economists, and they are not truly exposed to the technology. So I get a lot of questions about, hey, how do you do this on Excel? How do you do this on my Teams? And it's kind of fun to guide those senior economists that have been here for almost 30 years on how to do something very simple.
Yeah, Miguel, you hit on a really important point. Is when we enter organizations, we may not be the most senior people. When we graduate, we're entry-level employees often, usually. And so there's some value that we can offer because we might be more up to date in the technology. And just because we aren't senior doesn't mean we can't offer value in these different ways. So thank you for sharing that. And then Nubia, can you bring us home for a question?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. My experience is directly tied to the classroom at UNC in that I was part of the President's Leadership Program, and so we would have guest speakers that would come and do seminars. And one of the guest speakers was the president of the Denver Regional Banks. And afterwards, we had an opportunity to speak with him, network a little bit, and I told him I was interested in banking. And so I sent his associate, his administrative associate, my resume. I was also a Latin American Education Foundation scholar. And at the time, Wells Fargo had a partnership with LAEF to provide internships. Next thing I know, I have an internship with Wells Fargo. After my internship ended, I was offered the opportunity to become a teller. And so I always tell people, teller's not the bottom rung at a banking industry. You can also be an intern and be promoted into a teller position. And that was really, I started my career with Wells Fargo as a junior in college, and 21 years later, I'm still here.
Oh. That's great. Thank you, Nubia. So for our second question, as alumni of color, do you feel that you can be authentic and bring your unique perspectives with you to work? How do you leverage your background and experiences to contribute positively to your workplace and industry? So Brenda, can you get us kicked off with this question?
Yes. So speaking from my personal experience, straight out of college, I've only worked with First Bank. I've been there ever since I graduated, so it's going on 4.5 years. But I think I 100% can, and that's the reason why, probably why I've stuck with First Bank, and I truly enjoy what I do, is because they continue to prioritize inclusivity, making sure they created multicultural banking centers, making sure they have adequate resources to these communities that maybe need a little bit more attention than other communities. And so it's been a great experience to be hired on as a bilingual lender. So knowing that, hey, I was hired on to help serve these communities. They also have I-10 programs where it typically reaches out more towards the Latinx communities. So that's typically my client from a day-to-day, clients that look just like me, just like my parents. And they do a great job of asking us as the people with the boots on the ground in front of customers, what can they do better? What resources are we lacking? What input do we have? And what better person to give than someone who is just like them? So, yeah.
Thank you. That's a good endorsement of First Bank's practices. So Miguel, can you kind of speak to the second question?
Absolutely. So yes, I feel authentic. I feel I can be authentic at work, and yes, I feel like I can bring my own unique perspective. And I think I hope that we all can. The reason why I feel this way is because our unique perspectives, being of color, it helps us connect. It helps us connect with other minorities, with others, and within our own ethnicities, if you will. And most of all, like here at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, I call a lot of I have to work with a lot of businesses. And so a lot of, 500 employees or less, we know that to be a small business. And so that's what I deal with on a regular and routine basis. Particularly, my dad is a small business owner, doesn't have that many employees, under 10 employees. But that helps me remind me on a daily basis. Oh yeah, I remember my dad starting off. I remember how difficult it was. I remember this, I remember that. And as I work with small business, I try to ensure that they feel comfortable and good as we work through the requests that the Bureau of Labor the request that the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics has for them, and so that really helps. That background understanding.
Thank you, Miguel. What about you, Nubia?
So where I feel that I really leverage my background and experience and contribute positively in a workplace is in my ability to influence how I approach hiring and how my colleagues approach hiring. So with my ability to make hiring choices, I can really focus on being aligned with talent and transferable skills and not just prior experience. And that's super important, because if we're always focused on prior experience, we're going to get people that look like people who were in those posts previously. So it's really important to make room for those of us who bring maybe a different perspective, maybe a different type of experience, but those skills are very transferable into the positions that we're hiring into. There are some positions that we have to have the technical knowledge for, and I understand that. But the second piece of that is exposing students to those types of possibilities early. So I'll give you an example. I have a friend and colleague that knew that a trust advisor position at a bank was a thing. And so he went to law school to study trust and estates. And then he is in a bank working as a trust advisor, and he's very successful at it. We're the same age, but at that age, I didn't know what a trust advisor was. I didn't know what a trust was, right? And so by me being here talking to you, telling you that trust departments are really big, by telling you that they exist in financial institutions, I'm hoping that we can influence people earlier and earlier, and expose people to the possibilities that finance is so vast, and there's so many skills that are needed in the finance industry. And so, I try to also help my colleagues influence their decisions. And they ask me, what do you think? Can you sit on this interview? And feeling empowered to say, we need to broaden our parameters. Yes, this person doesn't talk exactly like you do, but that's a good thing. And you need to hire them because they have the skills and they have the experience. And so to me, that's one of the most powerful ways that I can positively contribute to my workplace.
Thank you, Nubia. And how about you, Mosab?
All right. First, I want to apologize. I didn't introduce myself properly in my background and my work. I just wanted to mention I work in the Saudi Stock Exchange in Saudi Arabia in the capital market. Before that, I worked in several positions as well in government and in telecommunication. But I'm residing here in Saudi, so it's kind of a different thing for me. It definitely reflect to me in a different way. But I leverage my background and experience by sharing my insight and, of course, offering different perspective on challenges and opportunities. And by embracing my identity and sharing my experience, I also contribute to a diverse and inclusive workplace that values and appreciate different backgrounds. At the same time, here I'm in my hometown, so I'm not an alumni of color, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not only about me. I have a lot of colleagues and in my team as well who come from different backgrounds, different religions, different cultures. And I think my experience as an international student in UNC have made me more conscious about recognizing other cultures and religious holidays and all these cultural celebrations and holidays. And my teammates helped me identify different things that I never knew about. Although I'm here in my country, so I'm considered as a local and not of color, but in the same time, I could contribute to my perspective of being in a different country, having to understand different cultures, and in the same time, in my team, I have different cultures, different religion. So I try to contribute in those religious holidays and the celebrations and understanding the cultures as well and having a cross culture. So I think it's very interesting for my case at least.
Yeah, and you present you present an important point, is that the context can change as we move throughout our lives, and we move geographically, and we move to industries. And so these ideas of embracing our identities and celebrating our individual differences, they can carry us even across situations that we wouldn't have previously considered.
Sure.
And so our next question, building on that one, now that you all have shared your experiences, how can our students harness the power of their diversity while embracing their own cultural identities within their careers? How about you start us off, Miguel?
Sure, absolutely. Okay, so I think first of all, I think students have to be, or you and we all have to be ourselves. I think that that's the most important thing. We can't, try to sugarcoat, pretend we're not who we are. Both the weaknesses and strengths. And so, how do we share? How do we harness the power of diversity as we embrace our culture? Well, it is to be yourself. I love my Latin, the Latin music. I love all of that. I love the Latin food. At any, given time, I'm able to connect with my coworkers, whether they be from the same ethnicity or not. And it's fun to talk about, what a real taco looks like, and about maybe what the flavor and seasonings go into it. And talk about that way. I think that also, one of the things that I thought about as I pondered this question was the fact that the limited resources always make it so creativity can actually flow, it fosters creativity. And so being a minority is coupled usually with less or a lack of resources. But it's that essence there that creates, once again, that allows an individual to actually create something. And so I think that that's what we see. I see it, at least in my personal career growth and development, that I bring these little silly things and maybe even quirks, but that can actually solve problems just because of the simplicity of it.
Thank you. Nubia?
It's really powerful. I agree with Miguel. It's really powerful to show up as who you truly are at work. And as a leader at work, it's up to me to set that bar and standard for my team. For them to see me being authentic, and for them to see me being myself. So earlier in the year, I had to take some time off to help my parents do some office visits and paperwork around their retirements. And I could have just chosen to take that time off and say I'm out of the office, but I took the time to tell my team, hey, my parents speak limited English, and so I take them to these appointments. I do a lot of their paperwork for them, so I'm taking time off in order to do this. And it was interesting how much that conversation opened up for them to share their family experiences, some similar to mine, some very different. But I think that me being so open also empowers them to also be open with me as well. And of course, there's office place cultural norms that I still have to follow. I'm still, wearing a jacket, and, I still have some communication standards office-wise that I have to adhere to. But I am a lot more comfortable just being me. When people ask me questions, feeling good that they're curious enough to answer. And then that also gives me permission to ask about them and their perspectives and how they live. One of the things that I've been very dedicated over my entire career is being involved with employee resource networks, really finding a community within the organization where I can find support and I can find a place to support others. It's a place where I found I could get informal leadership training. I could get the opportunity to lead projects, the opportunity to work in teams outside of my business line. And so really connects me with other people, with other ERNs as well, not just the Latino and Hispanic one. And really made time for leadership programs. I've been part of Impact Denver. I'm an alumna of the Latino Leadership Institute. So that continuous growth through my career, learning new skills, learning new ways to communicate, that's always been very important and a part of developing myself as really an authentic leader.
Excellent. Mossab?
Yes, I agree with Miguel. You should take pride in your cultural heritage, and recognize the unique perspective and the talents it brings. You can always seek out opportunities to share your culture with colleagues and promote cross-cultural understanding. I remember while I was in UNC in the campus, I used to have a music class, which was a world cultural music. And I used to play an instrument. It's very unique. It's Arabian instrument. So I brought it once to the class, and it felt so warming while doing that, while playing my music. It might sound good in a different way, but it kind of felt that it's coming from my cultural background, it's coming from my heritage. So experiencing that in my career was not as much as I experienced it in college. Nonetheless, we had several celebrations in the company regarding cultural days. And one day, and in the company, I'm always professional. I don't talk about my hobbies, my music. I just talk about work. So one day they brought these artists from everything, from everywhere of the world, from different places, and one of them was holding the same instrument that I play, and I was hesitant, and then I tried to approach the artist and ask him, "Can I play?" And he gave me the instrument, and once I played, everyone was having different reactions, although I've worked with them for six or 7 years. So it was kind of an identity, even though I'm in my country, but still 60 or 70% of my colleagues are from all over the world. So it was definitely a good feeling, a good experience to embrace that cultural heritage, to do that in a place that, for me, work is always professional. Company is always about work, and I don't talk about other things. But in that day, there was a celebration, and there was kind of a special off work and off the professionalism. So yes, engaging in the diversity and inclusion and the initiatives within the organization can help leverage your diversity to drive positive change. So that's part of the experience I had with the diversity in my career.
Great. Thanks, Mosab. And then Brenda?
Yeah, this is a tough question. I kind of pondered it a little while, but really, I think what I really kept resonating was just self-advocacy and just making sure that you're able to speak up for yourself, because diversity is a lot more than just having people on your team that look a certain way, right? It's implementing certain policies that match. It's keeping up with the company culture, making sure that also matches to make people comfortable to work there or to feel comfortable enough to even be their authentic self. And although it may be tough being the only one in the room that looks a certain way, acts a certain way, has this kind of background, sometimes you are kind of paving the way, especially being, in a predominantly white male industry, in the banking industry. I have been in many meetings where I'm probably the youngest, the woman, and I'm also Latina, right? So I'm hitting all the hitting all the check marks of someone who probably has never been in a room of that kind of, with those people before. So I think it's really just being able to advocate for yourself and not being scared to, even though it's difficult. Just remembering that you belong there and you're there for a reason, right? So just remembering to advocate for yourself.
Yeah, I think with advocacy, and a lot of you said something similar in your responses, it's really helpful to have some type of social support in the company as well. It's very hard to advocate alone, especially when you're an entry-level employee. And then having leaders like Nubia who role model the behaviors is crucially important. So if you can find a leader in the organization, even if it's not your direct leader who you admire, who you think role models those behaviors, then you can reach out and ask for some type of mentorship. And a lot of people, I've always been surprised at how willing people have been able to go above and beyond me, and it would never happen if I didn't ask.
And Maurice, if I may add something to that, is creating your own advocates. That was one of the most valuable lessons that a mentor taught me a long time ago, is how to ask people to be your advocate and what is it that you need them to advocate for. Because to Brenda's point, we're not always in the room. We're not always invited to the table, no matter how hard we're trying to elbow our way into that. But somebody that is at that table that can advocate for us and make space for us to then join them, that's really powerful as well.
And it kind of leads us to our next question, Nubia, and you're going to lead us off here. How do you build or strengthen your networks? Why is network or relationship building important in your work and business in the finance industry, but I think it could apply to any industry.
It applies to everything, right? If you have 5 people with very similar resumes, very similar education, very similar experience, how do you choose one person over the other? And a lot of the times it really comes down to that network. I had a young man that I hired, and one of the reasons that he stuck out, I mean, he's phenomenal. He is absolutely killing it, blowing it out of the water. He did amazing in his interview, but the reason he even got to the top of that list in the first place was because 3 different people, unrelated to each other, came to me and said, I know this young man that would be a really great fit for your position that you have open. And so because we had these 3 people, he just jumped to the top of the list. And even though he was there by his own merit, it really caught my attention to be there, versus wading through hundreds of resumes, right? So it's really, really important to make contacts with people, contacts who have contacts with other people. You don't have to know everybody, but you need to know somebody that knows other people. That's really, really important. And I'll tell you, Maurice, I'm a hardcore introvert, which I know I don't seem like I am. So big networking events, they make me really uncomfortable. And so when I commit to those, I commit to them rarely. And I tell myself, you have to be there for 1 hour. 1 hour and talk to 5 people. That's it. So I bargain with myself to get there. But what I have found is more effective for me is doing one-on-one meetings, doing small group meetings. And that's how I've been really good about building my network. And also I do something that I call informational interviews. So I find people that I'm interested in their role. I find people who have recommended by somebody else, like, hey, do you know so-and-so? And I'll email them and ask them for 30 minutes of their time. The worst they could say is no, right? The best thing they could say is yes. And I stick to that 30 minutes and I say, tell me about your role. What kind of leaders are you looking for? What kind of experience? How did you get to your position? Not necessarily because I'm looking for a position in that spot, but I want to be able to connect somebody to them. Or if they do have a position available and I'm qualified, to be able to confidently call them and say, hey, remember me? Tell me more about this position. And so that's something that I really encourage everyone to do. Pick people and do 30-minute informational interviews with them. I think it's really underutilized.
I have one follow-up. How do you identify the people that you should reach out to, or that are you on LinkedIn? Are you meeting them casually through your work, or organically through your work, or do you actually seek people by searching for certain terms online?
A little bit of both. So I talked a little bit earlier about my engagement with employee resource networks, with organizations like the Latino Leadership Institute. I meet friends who then introduce me to other friends. When I say, hey, do you want to get coffee? I don't mean that in a like, oh, hey, good to see you, we should get coffee. I mean, like, pull out your calendar and we're going to set up time to have coffee because we're going to make that work, right? I think that's also really important, being intentional about connecting with people. And then, yeah, organically, Marie. So I had a conversation with a previous manager and she had said, do you know Renee? She runs operations group. And I said, no, I don't. And she said, you should call her up. So I emailed Renee and I asked for 30 minutes of her time. We had a great conversation. And so now we happen to run into each other, in circles around or the work that we're doing. And we know each other a little bit more than just a name on an email.
Yeah, that's great. Mosab, how do you prefer to network?
Oh, networking. I remember in 2013, there was a networking day from in MCB. We had it, and it was very, very big with different companies. Building network is crucial in professional and personal life. Before I came to the States, I thought that was only true in Saudi Arabia, but boy, I was wrong. To build a network, it's important to continuously learn and develop new skills. This can be done through acquiring professional certifications or attending industry conferences. And some people, one of my friends also have a problem with the industry conferences and the network. So he always tried to take someone with him just to make it easier for him. So taking on these challenges and challenging projects sometimes and seeking out mentors who can provide guidance and support, all of these build a great network. So to build a strong network is equally important to open doors to new opportunities, provide you access to valuable resources and information. It also allows for collaboration and knowledge sharing and networking. Networking can be done through like the alumni association that we're having now, or through actively seeking connections within the field of interest. I always say push yourself outside of your comfort zone, build relationship with employees outside of your department, share experience, and then you never know, could lead to job opportunities. And in my job and previous jobs, I try to always keep in touch with colleagues throughout time, and it was always helpful. They give you insight sometimes about job openings that might come in handy. And I mean, they've worked with you before, they know your capabilities, and referral is always the key.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Mosab. There's some research that supports this idea that employees who interact more often outside their department are stronger, they're higher performers, and they're also potentially happier employees. They have higher job satisfaction because you understand your place in the organization, what your role is more so. But yeah, you can add a lot of value just by making friends in other departments. And I like your advice, bring a friend to a networking event. If you don't like it, make it fun for yourself. Do what you have to do. And Nubia's advice of she time boxes it, 1 hour, 5 people. And so who knows, maybe you'll go have a good time. Maybe you'll talk to 15. Brenda, how do you network?
Oh man, so when Nubia said that she is an introvert, I am also a very big introvert. I always have been. So, and that doesn't exist in the banking industry. Let me tell you, they love to golf. They love to go out and do these events constantly. We do a lot of networking events. So I have the advice of developing a strategy on what works best with you. Similar, obviously, Nubia shared her what she does, and it's really just whether it's, hey, I plan to touch base with these groups of people once a quarter, once a month, whatever works best for you, whether it's via email or phone call, or maybe even tailor it to the person that you're reaching out to, whether they prefer to be in person, right? But it's really just what is a strategy that's going to work best for you and fit well into whatever that you're doing in the industry that you're in. And then just keeping yourself to that strategy, right? Because it's very easy to just go with the flow of work, come in and out, do what you have to do at work. But it's really just setting yourself, hey, these are my goals, and I plan to touch base with X amount of people by the end of this month. That's really helped me. I will say that I've had to push myself to attend these networking events and kind of be a little bit more extroverted than I naturally am. There's nothing wrong with it. It has opened a lot more doors. It lets me know a lot of people that I wouldn't otherwise have known. So I will say that there is some benefit to kind of getting out of your comfort zone. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I find the one other person that's sitting alone and go talk to that one person.
Yeah. It's amazing how quickly you can bond with someone. And then if it doesn't happen, you just walk away, and there's very little downside, but it's amazing how anxious we can feel. Like, you know, there's where risk, there's huge risk, but it's really not. And a lot of times it works out positively for us. All right, Miguel, how do you network?
Okay, so first of all, let's talk about building. I think I just want to focus on building first, and then we'll talk about shifting over on how to maintain a network. But the first thing about, as far as like to build, and I think Nubia has already said this, but I just want to put it in a different way. You have to be intentional, absolutely intentional. You cannot expect, you know, to befriend everyone. Everyone in your graduating class is going to be your friend. It's just not going to work. And then later expect to see what's going to happen out of it. It has to be intentional. And you've heard Nubia, you heard Brenda. They're very intentional. They're introverts. They're intentional. Most of I assume he's very intentional too. And so that's the number one thing. Be intentional. I think it's very simple. Start by introducing yourself, who you are. If you're a student, I think that's fine. Specifically, what degree you're getting. Hey, marketing major, accounting major, economic major, business administration major, and so forth. You can tell people. We can share as you're having that conversation. Share a little bit about your background. Share your hopes. And what you want for the future. The people become very interested in that, like, oh, you want to become this, oh, you want to become that, and then they gets that conversation going. And then you have to connect somehow. I mean, I typically use LinkedIn to connect with individuals, and I just keep them there. So that's my method. LinkedIn, that's how I start off. Now, as far as strengthening that relationship, I think it's important to check in from time to time. Using a platform such as LinkedIn, social media, any of their social media platforms, you can always, read their post and reply. I think something that's super important to continue building and strengthening those relationships is always wish them well. People are getting promotions, people are shifting jobs, people are, and that's always, just keep up with it from time to time. It doesn't have to be 100%. You have to be a big fan or cheerleader, but yes, you could be there, be present. And then as far as like why these relationships are important, if you're changing careers, you never know. Someone that may already be there. So you just want to, you have a friend in the business. Hey, can you help me out? Maybe you find that people become promoted at different times. And so, your friend who you got, your new coworker, your friends, they got promoted and it takes you just a little bit longer or whatever or it might be backwards. And so it can help you move up or move into a different role. And then lastly, I think is just opportunities, whether it be general opportunities or business opportunities. So.
Good. So moving on to our next question, we're going to talk about imposter syndrome. Have any of you ever experienced feelings of imposter syndrome or self-doubt? If so, can you share what those feelings were and what the obstacles were and what you did to overcome it? And then just give our students some advice on what they can do to navigate imposter syndrome if they experience similar feelings. So Nubia?
Yeah, Brenda earlier described the feeling of being in a room and you're the youngest, the only woman, and the only person of color. Been there. And so the one thing that always helps ground me is that I'm there for a reason. I'm there because I belong there. I'm there because I'm smart enough, because I'm a good leader, because I contribute positively to the workplace. I wouldn't be there just because I'm brown and a woman, not in our industry, right? Because we have to fight so hard to get in the room in the first place. And I always attribute it back to a mentor that I had for many years. She would tell me, Mija, no one is going to toot your horn for you. You have to toot your own horn. And so she told me, practice in the mirror saying, I am really good at my job. The reason is that we culturally, right, we're taught to be a little bit more demure, that we're not supposed to be boastful, that good things come to people who good things come to people who go out and get it, and tell people that sometimes people just need to hear, I'm really good at my job, to make them at peace. This was particularly important. I was a portfolio manager, and I'm 5'1", so because I'm petite, people assume I'm younger than I am. And so they would look at me and say, oh, you're my portfolio manager? Yeah, I'm your portfolio manager. I'm really good at it. Let's sit down and talk about the market, right? And so really that gave me the boost of confidence that I needed to just sit in front of the mirror and say, I'm really good at my job. And it's not really faking it until you make it. It's more of kind of just that self-talk, right? That we have to be our own advocate. If we're asking other people to advocate for us, we have to be our own advocate. And so really, I really thank Grace for teaching me that early on, that it's not being boastful. It's that my manager has 5 million other things on their mind. And so if I don't remind them how amazing I am on a regular basis, they might forget, or they might be, busy taking care of people who maybe aren't performing in their jobs. And so it's my responsibility to remind people that I am good at my job, that I'm doing what I was asked to do. And frankly, as a leader, I appreciate it when my employees do the same for me, because sometimes I do forget, and sometimes I do forget to give them accolades when they need to. And so that was a really, really important lesson to me. And I think an important lesson for all of us, that we need to be our own best advocate as well.
Absolutely. I found it helpful to keep a list of evidence that of successes for myself to look at. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. And also you can share it when review time comes.
Ooh, at review time, I love those lists.
Yeah. Brenda.
Oh man, I think Nubia said all the amazing things where I really resonated. And again, this is going back to like how important networking is, because I'm probably going to connect with her after this, right? Because I see, these connections that are already forming, and it's important, and it's good to recognize them, good to keep those people in your circle. So as far as feeling imposter syndrome, self-doubt, 110%. I've already said it, been the only one in the room. So I'm a lender at the bank, and again, I'm 22, fresh out of college, talking to people about mortgages. I don't even have a mortgage, right? So it really is that obviously they train you and you get to a point where you feel comfortable and you know what you're talking about, but all that self-doubt, that kind of questions come in of like, who's this young girl who's going to talk to me about the biggest debt I'm ever going to acquire in my life, right? So it really is that reassurance in yourself, and that you know that what you're doing, you got there for a reason, and that affirmation of you wouldn't be here if you weren't deserving of it. So no one is going to take this from you except yourself, right? So you need to be, again, your biggest advocate and realize that you're there for a reason, and you're doing a great job. So yeah.
Excellent. Mosab?
Yes. So, self-doubt and imposter syndrome. Personally, I've faced challenges and obstacles that triggered self-doubt more than once. The environment of my work and the nature of it is always project-based and program-based. It's a change-driven unit. So one specific challenge I encountered was a transition into a leadership role where I had to manage a mega transformational program and make important strategic decisions. It wrecked me. I couldn't handle it in the beginning. As a result, I questioned my abilities. I felt like I didn't deserve the position. I was panicking. However, I overcame these feelings by seeking support from mentors and colleagues who provided encouragement and reassurances, especially those who were in my shoes once. And I had good, close relationship with those as a result of networking, and it helped me a lot. It made me focus on building my confidence by continuously learning and seeking feedback from certain people who I trust and I consider my mentor to improve my skills. The valuable lesson that I learned from this experience is that self-doubt is natural, but it should not define you. It should not limit your potential. It's important for you to recognize your strength, embrace new challenges, even if you hated it in the beginning. And that's the way it should be. And surround yourself with a supportive network, people who've been there, who've done it, and made you feel a lot good about yourself by supporting you and letting you know what are the things that you should focus on. Probably maybe noticing some things from your weaknesses that you could improve. And for current students navigating self-doubt and similar challenges in their future careers, my advice would be to acknowledge that self-doubt. It is common. It is experienced by many successful professionals. Embrace it as an opportunity for growth and self-reflection. Identify your weaknesses and work on improving it. Seek guidance from mentors, professionals who have faced similar challenges and can provide you with valuable feedback and advice. Take calculated risk. Step out of your comfort zone to gain confidence and experience. You have to do these things. Remember that failure is always part of the learning process, and it should not discourage you from pursuing your goals.
Thank you. And then Miguel.
Mosab had it down. He got it. All I have to say is yes, I've experienced that. Am I experiencing that now? Not as much. Not as much. See, this is what happens, students. You graduate, and you go through the ceremony. Nothing really changes. You're still yourself. I'll say so that's what happens. And then all of a sudden, for example, this job happened to me, or I pursued it, and now it's like I went from being the son of a landscaper to, hey, I work at a white collar position and required to be a professional, and hey, my credentials say I am qualified to be a professional, but did I feel it? No, not necessarily. As I continue to work here and develop and learn from the colleagues and those who have been in the industry for a long time, I start realizing, like, okay, I'm not half bad. There's a lot for me to learn, but I'm not half bad. I think it's an opportunity for growth, as Mosaf has already said, that you can grow, you can develop, and that's fine. You have an entire career, 30, 40, I don't know. Statistics say that like the younger generation do not think about retiring, but you have a long time and before that happens. So you'll learn, you'll grow, you'll develop. And I think that's really important. Now, one thing is that I graduated, right? Pandemic is still going on, 2022, unable to get internships. This is difficult. It was a difficult time going through school. So this is one thing that I had to do was look externally. As I read job descriptions, oh my goodness, I don't qualify for that one. I don't qualify for this one. And it was just a little overwhelming and difficult. But what I ended up doing, students, if you're having self-doubts about your skills and your abilities and things that you've learned, pull up those job descriptions. Seriously, pull up those the job descriptions. Pull up the course descriptions, all the courses you've taken, and look at all the skills and everything you had to learn to go through those courses. I think you'll surprise yourself at how much you've actually done.
Excellent. All right, panelists, we're to our last question, and you each will have 30 seconds to give your elevator pitch of what is your final word of advice for UNC Bears who are currently seeking jobs in business and finance? And Mosab, can you kick us off?
Sure. My advice is be proactive, always be proactive. Seize opportunities, take advantage of the resources available to you, such as career services, alumni networks, internship, and also network extensively. Build relationship with professionals in your field of interest. Attend industry events, join relevant professional organizations, and stay updated on industry trends. And it's a must. Your first job might not be as you expect, but take that journey. It's an opportunity. You never know where it will take you, but have a goal in mind and keep building yourself and improving yourself and be able to grow, and opportunities will come to you. Be persistent, resilient in pursuing your career. The journey may have its ups and downs, but with determination and continuous learning, I'm positive that you can achieve success.
Excellent. Brenda.
All right. My advice would be to really speak in question to these companies, corporations that you are applying to, because as much as you're looking for a job, like you should be confident and comfortable with where you are looking to work. This is going to be where you spend the majority of your time outside of being at home, right? So ask them about their company culture, ask them about what their efforts are with inclusion, diversity. Really ask them, because it is important and it really matters for you to be comfortable where you work and love where you work, and it will really affect your work to life balance as well. So that's my advice.
Thank you. Miguel?
Sure, absolutely. I wrote a couple things down. I'll go through them within the 30 seconds. So first of all, I think if you want a specific job, in my case, I applied everywhere throughout the country. I was willing to pay that price. Number two is apply frequently. I was applying between 4 to 7 jobs per week. By the end of my senior year, I had applied for about like 78, 79 jobs. And post that, I ended up, in like May or in June, July, I think I ended up with like 100 and change. So, apply. Despite interviews that you're starting to get in those interviews, make it. My goal was to have more than just one job offer, so that way I can pick and choose which one I wanted to take. And so you can make that a goal. And then you don't have to accept the job. I think Brenda just said that. If you're unsatisfied, repeat the process, start over. That's fine. It's okay. Starting over is okay. Just continue looking. And then if you're not qualified, if you continue to look and look and look and you're not qualified, well, I think Mosab has already said, sometimes that first job isn't what you're expecting, but you can build on it. you can go and become qualified. You can become your own steward of your experience. And I think that is truly important.
Great. And Nubia, can you wrap us up?
All right. My advice is be curious, ask questions, be open to different paths, and be flexible. Accept that career paths are not always linear. Sometimes you take a position that is the lateral move because you want to work under a leader, because you want to learn a new skill, because you want to learn about that business line. And that is amazing. And sometimes, those moves aren't by your own choice. The organization changes as well. So the only constant in finance is that it's always changing.
Excellent. Great job, panelists. So I'm going to hand it back over to Teresa for some closing thoughts. Thank you all for your thoughtfulness and your responses.
Yes. Thank you to all of our
Yeah.
panelists, our moderator, and to all of you for joining us today. It is always an honor and pleasure to host fellow Bears and hear about their UNC experience, unique identities, career paths, and their industry insights. Throughout the semester, we will be hosting virtual alumni career panels. To learn more, you can visit www.unco.edu/alumni/careers. And before we end, our colleagues over at UNC Center for Career Readiness wanted to share some insight into their resources. So I'm going to read the little blurb. The UNC Center for Career Readiness is here to support you with all things career while you are a current student on campus, as well as up to 3 years after you graduate. The office connects UNC Bears with quality on-campus, community, and national employers through the career tool Handshake and hosting on-campus career fairs, which was mentioned today. Students are encouraged to schedule an appointment with the career counseling team to review resumes, to help with job search, and to do mock interviews and more. For more information, please visit their website at unco.edu/career, or you can email them at career.readiness@unco.edu. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. I hope you all have a great evening. And on a count of 5, you all can unmute yourselves. We're going to do a little Go Bears, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go
Go
Bears!
Bears.